This past weekend, I got to make my first visit to Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois. I got the opportunity to ride every coaster there with the exception of Demon, which appears to be closed for refurbishment. This park has a very deep lineup of good coasters and I had a blast getting on all of them, so naturally I had to make a video ranking them up. These are the coasters of Six Flags Great America, ranked from worst to first. Number 15, Joker, an S&S free spin, opened in 2017. This ride absolutely sucks. Please demolish it and put literally anything else here. Number 14, Sprocket Rockets, a Vekoma Jr. coaster, opened in 1998. I've ridden a few clones of this coaster, and it's solid for what it is, but it's a kiddie coaster at the end of the day. Number 13 is Little Dipper, a PTC Wooden Jr. coaster, opened in 2010. This is the other small coaster in the park, and like Sprocket Rockets, it's also good for what it is. It's fairly smooth for a Woody, but also just doesn't do a whole lot. Just a solid ride for the younger kids overall. Number 12 is the Dark Knight coaster, a Mock Rides indoor wild mouse, opened in 2008. Opening to coincide with the popular movie of the same name, the Dark Knight coaster has some of the best theming I've ever seen on a ride at a Six Flags park. The theming is put together well, and on its own makes the ride a fun experience. However, the ride is quite janky, and the dark just makes it tough to see the rough parts coming to allow myself to brace for them, which makes it tough to re-ride. It's still a fun coaster though, with plenty of those classic laterals found on a Wild Mouse. I just can't really rank it any higher because this park has so many good coasters that it's hard to justify putting it above anything else. Number 11 is Whizzer, a Schwarzkopf speed racer, opened in 1976. This was my first time riding one of these, and I'd say it was about what I expected. It's a fun family coaster, and the spiral lift hill is pretty cool to see. There were some good positive G's on the helices, but alas, this coaster just didn't have enough to propel it any higher on this list. Number 10 is Superman Ultimate Flight, a B&M flying coaster, opened in 2003. This is a clone of the Superman at Six Flags Over Georgia, which I have ridden a lot over the years. I used to really like this model, but as time goes on, I've just grown to like it less and less. I've come to realize that while the pretzel loop on here is a top tier element, the ride just doesn't have much else to offer. I think my enjoyment of these has gone down, especially since I've seen what a good flying coaster can look like with Tatsu at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Even saying all this, that pretzel loop is still great and elevates Superman to just inside the top 10. Number 9 is American Eagle, an Intamin wooden coaster, opened in 1981. This is the point on the list where I'd say the coasters start to get pretty good. I got a ride on both the red and blue sides of this monstrous dueling coaster, and while it unfortunately didn't duel, the large stature and airtime provided by this coaster was more than enough to make it a very fun ride experience. There were a few dead spots, mainly at the start of that large helix turnaround and the final smaller helix on each side, but that didn't take away from it too much. Along with the great ride experience, American Eagle is just an impressive structure to look at, and I hope they keep this ride around for a while. Number 8 is Batman the Ride, a B&M invert, opened in 1992. The original Batman clone holds up as a great ride, with the other newer ones to be an intense and whippy ride experience. I got to ride in the front row this time, which is a rarity for me since I always go in the back on these, and it was just as good as a back row ride in my opinion. These Batman clones are always great rides that I'll never get tired of, and the fact that I have it placed 8th here just shows how great this park's lineup is. Number 7 is Max Force, an S&S air launch coaster, opened in 2019. Going into this trip, I thought this would be a top 3 coaster in the park with that insane launch, and to say it disappointed me is an understatement. The launch was super intense as suspected, but it gets up to speed so fast that it just isn't a very sustained sensation. I would easily take the launch on any of the Intamin accelerators over this one, and on top of that, the ride is just so short that it feels like it's missing a lot. The elements are great and all, and it's enough to get it this high on the list, but alas, the whole ride as a whole just leaves something to be desired, so it comes in at number 7. Number 6 is Viper, opened in 1995. This wooden coaster doesn't look like much when approaching it, standing 80 feet tall and only hitting 50 miles an hour, but it provides a very good ride experience. Viper contains many fun airtime moments that are amplified by the lap bars that allow you to fully experience all of it. On the 2 rides I got, the lap bar was up far enough that I got to come really far out of my seat on all the airtime hills, which just made this coaster a lot of fun. It isn't the craziest thing ever, but the unrestricted airtime plus the fairly long ride duration makes this coaster one I definitely look forward to re-riding when I get back to this park someday. Number 5 is Flash Vertical Velocity, an Intamin impulse coaster, opened in 2001. This is the second impulse coaster I've ridden, with the other being the now defunct Wicked Twister at Cedar Point. Launching both forward and backward up those spikes made for a really fun ride that I thought made for a better launch coaster than Max Force. I got a ride near the back, so I was going pretty high up on that back spike, which was a whole lot of fun. It also went through the course a few more times than I was expecting it to, which was a really nice surprise, increasing the ride duration. Even though this is a cloned model, I thought it was a lot of fun, and I wish there were more intimate impulses out there. Number 4 is XFlight, a B&M wing coaster, opened in 2012. From the eye test, this appears to be the most forgettable wing coaster in the country. It doesn't have the height of Gatekeeper, the launch of Rapterra or Thunderbird, or the straight drop of Wild Eagle, but for my money, it's the best of the wing coasters I've ridden. I've been on all the wing coasters I just mentioned aside from Rapterra, and once I rode XFlight, there were a few major things that stood out to me. The pacing on this was the best I've experienced on a wing coaster, and the series of near-miss elements at the end are the best I've experienced on any coaster, period. Maybe I just liked it so much due to my low expectations, but all 3 of the rides I got in on it impressed me. I sat in the back for all 3 rides, and getting pulled down that wing over first drop is super fun. My word of advice when you go to Six Flags Great America, absolutely do not overlook XFlight. Number 3 is Goliath, an RMC Topper Track wooden coaster, opened in 2014. This is by far the roughest RMC I've experienced, and to be honest, I thought it was actually the roughest ride in the whole park. Despite this though, the layout is very powerful and packs in some great elements like the dive loop and zero G stall. The coaster doesn't have that many elements and it is pretty short, but every single element that it does have is very fun. I even enjoyed that weirdly profiled overbank turn that comes after the first drop. I would say this is a below average RMC, but even those are amazing rides and Goliath is no different. Number 2 is Wrath of Shaza, a B&M dive coaster, opened in 2025. For the longest time, I have been the biggest dive coaster hater because they never seem to do anything after the first drop. It's usually like 1 or 2 forceless elements, a mid-course brake run, then a couple more smaller forceless elements. However, this dive coaster absolutely wowed me with its ride experience. Starting out with that 180-foot 96-degree drop is awesome, especially in the back row. It honestly is my favorite drop on any dive coaster, despite Valraven and Sheikra both being taller. I'm not really a huge fan of the Immelmans that seem to always follow the first drop on these, but this one wasn't bad. But the inversions that followed were all spectacular, including that dive loop, the upward 0G roll, the corkscrew, and finally that last roll, which I've taken to calling a diet barrel roll down drop. Wrath of Shaza is super well paced through all 5 of its inversions unlike other dives, and even has a great helix to end it off. This is an overall slam dunk of a new coaster, and B&M did a great job with that layout. Number 1 is Raging Bull, a B&M hypercoaster, opened in 1999. As great as Wrath of Shaza was, there was no competition for the number 1 spot. Raging Bull is an amazing hypercoaster with a lot more great airtime moments than I was expecting, given that it has more of a twister layout compared to other B&M hypers. That first drop in the back row is simply one of the best that there is, and the airtime on that and on the drop off the mid-course is borderline violent in the absolute best way. I got 4 rides on this and every single one just made the ride better. This is the 5th B&M hyper I've ridden, and I'd say it's my 2nd favorite, just behind Goliath at Six Flags over Georgia. Raging Bull is simply just a long, comfortable ride experience with a whole lot of flow to airtime and a decent amount of positive G's on those turns. It all comes together for a stellar ride experience and is definitely a worthy number 1 coaster for this park. Do you agree with my list? Let me know your top 5 coasters at Six Flags Great America in the comments. This is a super fun trip and I really hope I'm able to get back to this park not too long from now. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.